Hey, today we're gonna talk about the position from the finals of the Women's World Cup that was played between Diva Deshmur and Hampi Canero, and we chose this position as a themed position for our very first Lichess tournament. There were 40 games played, and let's discuss that position and the games in more details. First of all, you can see that white has two bishops and black has two knights, and everything else is equal and the pawn structure is symmetrical. What should we expect from this position? Well, if everything remains the same, it's pretty much equal because it's very hard to attack something. But I want to remind you, everyone blunders. It's very easy to miss tactics, especially, as I said, for people with low rating. I blundered in this position too in the tournament, so it's quite easy to do something wrong, especially if you stay passive. The second thing that could change is the pawn structure. Any change in the pawn structure will result into something. It will create weaknesses for either side to attack, weak squares to occupy, or if, for instance, this pawn disappears, that will open the bishops. And as we know, a bishop pair is a huge advantage in an open position. But here, both bishops are blocked, and the knights don't really have any squares they could easily occupy. But if something changes, that will benefit either side. For instance, in this game, black chose to change the pawn structure by playing knight e4, and that wasn't a smart option simply because after the bishop took, rook took, pawn took, it opened this bishop because d5 was unavoidable, and you can imagine how terrible black position became after that. I mean, checkmate was in the air. That was very bad. In a different game, for instance, white got too passive and black easily used their advantage. So knight b4 attacking the queen, and in a couple of moves the second knight got into the center. Black rook occupied the open file, rook c2. You can see that black is way more active and queen e1 cannot be a good move. Besides, we got some weaknesses to attack, and d4 cannot be called a strong pawn. So that was a bit passive. Either way, if the knight went to b4, white should have accepted that even though they have a bishop pair, it's not possible to use it in this close position, and they should just trade and go for a draw. Practically, a game should end in a draw in a position something like this, where white decides to accept the trade, and we get a very equal symmetrical rook endgame. But of course, as I told you, equal doesn't mean drawish. That could lead to anything. Any side can make mistakes. So either way, in the real game, white pushed for something. White was very aggressive. They even sacrificed the pawn to attack and to open the bishop. And black should have been very careful to avoid anything. As you can see, the bishop is very strong. White doesn't have a pawn, but bishop is dominating the board. So black was okay to give the pawn back, and eventually they just made the free fall repetition. So what I'm trying to say is the position is equal, but we have imbalances that could be used if either side makes mistakes by pushing pawns too far, too quickly, or by being too passive. So if you were to play this position in a real game, I would recommend just staying active without avoiding trades. Like when the knight goes to b4, if you don't take it and you become too passive, you'd rather take it, and without trying to push too far away to not create weaknesses yourself. And maybe if you get a chance to try to attack this pawn, or of course if you get a chance to get rid of this pawn, that would be wonderful to open your bishop. But otherwise, I would just recommend staying calmly and trying to improve your position. I know that wasn't the easiest position to play for the first tournament that we're in, but I thought that was a very interesting middle game choice. Let me know what you think of this position, and if you participated in the tournament, let me know what you think of that as well.